Hello, good morning to everyone. Welcome to the webinar today, which will bring you the insight to the sustainable real estate opportunities. Please note that this webinar will be recorded and the presentation will be shared after the webinar to everyone. Our panel is organized jointly by European Real Estate Society, ERES Slovakia, Slovak Technical University, and Slovak Green Building Council. In this second session of today, we will discuss about sustainable development factors and barriers on the property market. You can address your questions to our guests and use Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, and I will pose a question to our panelists at the end of the session. My name is Hana Ovesna, and I am a member of RICS. I am Executive Director of Slovak Green Building Council, and I will moderate this panel. I have a great pleasure to be joined by the brilliant panel who will share their views on what we need to do to make construction greener and to reach climate and environmental sustainability targets. We have 4 speakers today, and let me introduce them. How they will go in our presentation. The first one is Mr. Peter Robl, Chairman of the Board of the NGO Buildings for the Future, and he will talk about green building and public policies in Slovakia. Mr. Marek Kremeň is CEO of Exergy, and he will introduce us certification as a tool for green building. The third is Mr. Martin Stohl, Sustainability and Wellbeing Specialist of Reavis, and from this position he will talk about company's ESG strategy. And the last one in this role is Mr. Vladimir Orovnicky, Managing Director of Daikin Slovakia, and from the position of the technology provider, he will introduce us his experience with reaching healthy indoor conditions. I would like to ask for the next slide. So Slovak Green Building Council is the civic association, and our main slogan is that we are main ambassador of sustainable construction in Slovakia. We are facing many challenges and opportunities in the built environment, and the last period is heavily affected by the pandemic situation. Despite the positive effect of the pandemic on the environment during lockdown, the global warming is intensifying. We know that buildings are a critical solution to climate change, as they are responsible for 40% of energy consumption. Green buildings represent some of the most effective means to achieving a range of SDGs goals, as addressing climate change, creating thriving communities, and economic growth. Please, next slide. Slovak Green Building Council was established in 2011. During the last 9 years of our functioning on the Slovak market, we observed a growing number of green and certified buildings. And this year, 2020, brought several outstanding projects, which will be presented later in this session. The most recognized certifications are BREEAM, LEED, DG, and BR recently also were certificated. Currently, we have over 50 certificating buildings, and it will be also set in the next presentation. Next slide, please. We follow our action through our key themes we set for this period. It is climate change, healthy indoor environment, healthy living, renovation of public buildings, and education of youth. We are also partners in some EU projects following these topics. Our actions also follow the important targets, and through education, we organize over 13 events per year. In this year, the most visited were Net Zero Building Seminar, Green Homes, the pathway to decarbonization. Also, we are a sector partner for the other events like a Property Forum, the Construction Forum, Trend Conference, and many others. We advocate for accelerated actions towards net zero buildings. We shift market expectations of what acceptable asset should look like. We communicate the urgent need to take actions to address carbon emission, associated with buildings and construction sectors. This year, we submitted over 20 press releases commented these topics. We collaborate with our members and many partners in the construction sector to foster activities towards sustainable and energy efficient green building. I would like to ask you for the next slide. Here you can see the number of our members. Currently, we have 50 companies acting with Slovak Green Building Council, and the number of our members keeps growing. The most active groups are developers, advisors, and solutions providers, and materials and technology producers. I have to thank to our leaders for the dedication they have for our cause. Also, our panelists are our members. As Anna mentioned in the beginning, the first introduction to public policies and green building will be presented by Peter Robl. And I would like to hand over to you, Peter. Please, floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning. So my name is Peter Robl. I lead organization which is called Buildings for the Future. Next slide, please. Buildings for the Future is an advocacy organization formed by 8 member associations. One of them, founding member of Buildings for the Future, is Slovak Green Building Council. And when I say we, Buildings for the Future is an advocation organization, means that we are promoting good public policies that promote quality renovation and new construction of buildings. I want to just give you a brief insight into the situation with buildings and construction in Slovakia and the related public policies. Next slide, please. When we speak about buildings in Slovakia, just a few comments. We have about 1 million residential and 15,000 public buildings. Information about how many private non-residential buildings are there in Slovakia is missing from public sources. What I want to maybe highlight from this slide is that there is a high need for renovation of buildings, all kinds of buildings. About 2/3 of buildings are in the original state and need renovation. And the second thing I want to highlight is the trends that are coming and that will shape renovation and investment into new build in future. And these trends are 3. That's a climate change, first of all, that will mostly influence how we renovate and build, construct new buildings in terms of passive and active cooling, as well as water management and other aspects. So the climate change in Slovakia will play a role also in this regard. And then 2 other trends will affect also investment into residential buildings. And these trends are aging population. Slovakia is the fastest aging country in European Union, and urbanization. We have about 50% of people living in the countryside, whereas the average European urban population is about 70%. So there is a trend for people to move from countryside to cities. Aging and urbanization will push on demand for housing, and this will result in further construction of new residential buildings. If we can go to next slide. When we look at the situation with certified sustainable buildings in Slovakia, we have information from Salvis, a member company from Slovak Green Building Council. And you can see in these charts, first of all, that there is a steady growing trend of certified buildings. I can say the first certified building was constructed in 2012. We mostly have commercial or office buildings certified. We only have 2 residential buildings certified, and all of the certified buildings are private buildings, whereas in many other countries in European Union, but also in Canada and the US, it is actually the public buildings that are certified more than private. When we compare the situation in Slovakia with our surrounding countries, neighboring countries, we can see that the situation with certification is comparable to Czech Republic, given the difference in size. We are a bit ahead compared to Hungary, because Hungary is a bigger country in Slovakia, but we have more certified buildings. But Poland is definitely the front runner in our region in terms of certification of buildings. When we go to the next slide, I think the key policy developments that deserve attention is that as of next year, all new building and renovated buildings, when possible, will need to comply with the level of energy efficiency defined at nearly zero energy. So that's one very important aspect. Then the government is preparing two important strategies: long-term renovation strategy and housing policy. These will define investments into residential and non-residential buildings, into new and renovation. As when we speak about housing policy, I think I need to mention that there is a strong push to build more rental housing buildings. This will be probably a growing segment in the near future. And these two strategies are very important also as precondition to use the huge money from Recovery and Resilience Fund, as well as from the cohesion funding. I also want to mention that the government is working on a revision of the General Building Code that should bring simplification and more transparency into permitting process for construction and renovation. Slovakia has very, very long permitting processes. I think it's among the top, the longest in European Union. So this should help. When we speak about the next slide, please. When we speak about the cohesion funding and the recovery funding, this is going to be really huge money. The recovery fund that was approved by the European Council in July this year will basically double the normal European funds for countries for the next 3 years, and Slovakia will have almost more than 19 billion of euro available for the next 7 years to be invested in various areas. And we believe, and it seems, we have indications from the government and the coalition that part of that, significant part of that, should go into building support. My last slide is about 5 areas that we think Slovakia should improve the policy. We think this would help building and renovation of quality buildings. First of all, Slovakia has quite good regulation, quite good legislation, but we need to enforce it better. Energy certification is one of the examples where legislation is good, but implementation is lagging behind. Secondly, we need to empower municipalities. Municipalities, they manage many public buildings, and they also have impact on how private buildings are built and renovated. We need to make them, make more capable, provide them more technical assistance, because they don't have the capacities, both, from volume wise, but also expert wise, to manage the processes. Third is that in all incentive programs, the programs should reward innovation and use of best available techniques to advance how we build and renovate buildings, because we are sometimes not doing as much as we could. The fourth point is to attract private funding into building construction and renovation. I can say public building renovation could probably benefit from more energy performance contracting. We believe that there is a huge space for private funding in construction of rental housing, and there could be other examples. And the fifth point is to actually, acknowledge that we have a group of population that will never be able to afford to invest into their housing, and this is energy poor people or energy poor households that need a different kind of help, but without this kind of public help, they will never be able to cope themselves. The 6th out of the 5 steps to modern buildings in Slovakia is to make buildings a priority of the government, which I think also, thanks to the support from the Slovak Green Building Council and Buildings for the Future, is slowly but steadily happening. Thanks for the attention.
Thank you, Peter, for the great overview. And now I will ask Marek to continue with his presentation.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marek Kremeň. I'm representing company Exergy and our partner company Simulácie budov, both specializing in consulting services focused on energy, environment, sustainability, and green building certification. My background is in the field. I studied sustainability design and architecture and smart buildings in Slovakia and abroad. So this gave me a nice opportunity to compare different markets and different countries. I'm very grateful for that. And basically what we're trying to do here in Slovakia is to bring the processes and the approach from abroad into local market. Next slide, please. When I say green building certification, I mean mostly BREEAM LEED and WELL. There was a comment and a Q&A section which referred to misleading interpretation of certifications in Germany. Well, why BREEAM LEED and WELL are those which I'm going to talk about is that these are mostly used in the local market and also in the markets around Slovakia. So in these certifications, we have plenty of experiences, not only on the local market, but also from abroad in, I would say, developed countries in terms of sustainability, like Great Britain, Austria, or Singapore, which is completely different market, but very interesting to compare. In Slovakia, we started the first certification in 2011. And when we have a look at the history of certifications, the first issued certificate was in 2012. So we're talking about not very deep history of certification, but still within these 8 years, a lot has been done. And since then, we learned a lot about the local market and created, I would say, the sustainable pyramid of certification. Next slide, please. Which I strongly believe this pyramid represents not only the process of certification and related services in Slovakia, but this is our experience from other markets, how the certification should be done and what should be the approach of certification, which mainly should be used as a tool. That's the main approach of certification. And in green building certification, no matter if it's LEED, BREEAM, or WELL, or DGNB, which was mentioned in the comment, these all should be used as a tool. If it's used as a tool, there is a high chance that you create the value in the end towards better, healthier, environmentally friendlier buildings. And that's the right approach and reason of doing it. And also, it's a nice tool to compare different buildings in different countries using the same metrics, because we have global legislation which comes from the EU, but each country has a local adjustment of the legislation. So certification gives us a really nice opportunity to nicely apply these on comparing of portfolios, for example. So when you ask yourself, can I measure sustainability? Yes, you can. And there is plenty of data already on the market. And that's how certification is not really used so far for some reason. If it's used this way, it's not really common approach. So that's one of my key messages. Think about certification as a tool, not as a paper in the end. So the certification itself, as you can see from the pyramid, is just a cherry on the top, but there are many, many things behind the scenes which are more important than the result. Is it like that in Slovakia? Not always, but we do all we can basically to convince the market that this is the right approach. I think the same applies to other CE countries and probably the whole EU countries too. And we would highly appreciate if we had more support in local legislation, which often fights against certification. For example, I'm gonna mention just one example, and that's the car parking capacity. The certification wants to reduce the car parking capacity in order to convince people to come to work in a different way. But the local legislation is forcing projects to increase this number. So this is just one of the examples. Next slide, please. When we have a look at the comparison of certifications, I'm again going to talk about BREEAM, LEED, and WELL. Between us and our selected neighbors, next slide, please, we can see that even the numbers of projects is different. The ratio between first three countries, and that's Slovakia, Czech Republic, and Poland, is about the same. So the leading system is BREEAM, followed by LEED, and the most recent WELL. And the very interesting market is Hungary. When you have a look, the leading system there is LEED. So that's a message that this market is required, or it requires something different. And it's very interesting because it's one of our neighbors and still so different comparing to the others. The last thing I would like to talk about is the master plan certification, BREEAM communities, where the city districts with multiple buildings are designed with respect to several categories. And I think this is a future of sustainable construction, design, and operation, because when you think about a big scale, the effect on buildings and on cities and countries is much better, wider, and deeper, and leads in a higher quality districts, not only buildings. One of the examples is Nivy Zone in Slovakia, which was recently certified in BREEAM communities. In total, we have 22 certified districts or community certifications all over the world. So it's currently a very unique way how to certify. And I think personally that this is the approach we should have a closer look at, together with using a certification as a tool. Buildings play a key role in our lives, and we just cannot ignore the fact that sustainability should be the essential part of it. And it should be the essential part not only with the design and construction, but also the operation. And using the certification as a tool for the lifespan of the building, not only till the moment the building is handed over to the client, will definitely help the market to achieve different goals, which in the end do not necessarily need to be only environmental, but it help us also to compare markets, compare buildings, compare districts, share the knowledge, and increase the overall quality of buildings in each of our countries. Thank you very much, and I will hand over to my words to another speaker. Thank you.
Martin, please, floor is yours.
Okay, may I ask for the next slide? Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Martin Stohl. I'm with Reavis. Thank you for this opportunity to speak here. I was requested to bring in the perspective of a commercial developer into the discussion. So I would like to introduce Reavis to those who don't know us. We had been established in 1993 as the small real estate company, and grew from there on. What are the milestones which are important from the context of our discussion today is the year 2011. I've joined the company in 2008, just before that, and the discussion about the sustainability was just starting on the market. In 2008, we took a decision to adopt BREEAM certification system as the system of choice for all our new buildings. The first building we have certified in this system in 2013. In the further development of our company, we focused much more on the people. We understood that the building performance must go hand in hand with the healthy environment inside. So the next step was our concentration of the workplace as a service. And so in 2018, we have adopted the WELL certification system. And at the same time, we have joined the WELL Living Lab and other research universities and companies to develop the best possible solutions for the indoor quality. In 2020, which is this year, we are going through a turbulent time, but nevertheless, we have been able to focus on some of the new priorities which are on the market, one of them being zero carbon. And we are just starting a pilot project in London where we are testing the ground. If I may ask for the next slide. Since our humble start in Slovakia, we had expanded into 6 countries around Europe. Currently, we are one of the largest commercial space developers in Europe. We have over 700 employees with quite a huge pipeline. What's important, maybe a summary of the projects that we've done so far. We have been focusing on the BREEAM new construction certification system. 14 certified buildings already completed, 24 in progress. We have been also using BREEAM in use with 5 certified projects. And as Marek mentioned before, we are excited to have already 2 certified BREEAM communities zones, which include several projects at the same time. The latest one being the Nivi zone here in Bratislava, which has acquired BREEAM Communities Excellent level at 78.2, which is the 5th best out there in the world so far. We're very proud of it. We have 1 additional BREEAM Communities in progress in Budapest. We have also tested the DGMB, which is exciting to us to compare the system with the BREEAM system. And as I've mentioned, for 2 years, we are already working with the WELL certification system. We have 26 in progress. Some of them should be certified very soon. Next slide, please. These are some of the projects which we had been developing. The one at the top left is our central, 33 Central in London, UK, our headquarters. The next to it is the One Waterloo, the biggest acquisition so far in the UK, right next to the Waterloo station. Then next to it is our Bloom Clerkenwell project, which is aspiring for BREEAM Outstanding, WELL Platinum, as well as Wired Score Platinum. The next one is the Berlin Project District, where we acquired an industrial zone, which was originally a meat market. We are converting it into a new project where we are testing the DGNB. It's going to also be certified in a WELL certification system. Next to it is the project in Warsaw, the tallest building in the European Union with 310 meters tall. It has been already pre-certified in BREEAM Platinum, and it will be certified in WELL as well. Next to it is Forest. I'm not going to mention all the rest of the projects for the shortness of time. I can speak about it for a long time, of course. Our headquarters is the building at the bottom, at the center of the Nivi zone, Twin City Tower, where we had experimented with several different solutions in the sustainability field. All of the projects are certified in BREEAM. Most of the new ones are in the process of being certified in WELL. Next slide, please. So when I spoke about our buildings before, I would like to mention also our company as such. We had adopted the ESG strategy. ESG standing for environmental, social, and governance, which goes across our performance. And in all of those categories, we have set up some KPIs, which are third-party verifiable, focusing on the environmental, which is the subject of our discussion today. Among our priorities are carbon reduction and green transport. And on the next slide, if I may ask, here are the 6 main environmental pillars which we concluded are the most important for our buildings. So that's the energy performance. As it has been mentioned already, we are now switching from A1 energy performance category to A0 with nearly zero energy performance here in Slovakia, which comes with some challenges. Carbon reduction, Currently, we are focusing on the operational carbon, but more and more we are discussing and looking for solutions how to decrease the embodied carbon by selecting products and materials with lower carbon footprint. Of course, water consumption is a topic as well, even though we have so far currently an abundance of good quality water. It doesn't mean that it has to stay that way. We need to be very conscious about using it. We have the building management system, which is detecting any water leaks in our buildings. We're collecting rainwater, and what's important, we're also involving the building users to be conscious about energy saving and water saving in our buildings, because without their contribution, it wouldn't be possible. Waste management, also a huge thing related to the circular economy that goes across from the very beginnings with demolition of the existing buildings, construction waste, all the way to the operational waste management. Green transportation, it has become our trademark to have bicycles and good quality bicycle facilities in every single building that we do, which includes the changing rooms and showers for the bicycle users. We also have electric charging stations and many other things to support green transportation. Biodiversity, we always strive to look not only on the building itself, but also around at the surroundings with good quality landscaping, which is based on the research and assessment of the existing conditions using the local species and supporting, for example, bees, insects, bats, and other animals which are beneficial for the environment. So this is what I have so far. Any other questions I can respond to on further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. And now I would like to kindly ask you, Vladimir, to continue with his introduction.
Thank you very much. Also, nice afternoon from my side. Nice regards from Bratislava. Please, next slides. I will slightly introduce myself. How you heard, my name is Vladimir Orovnicky. I work for the company Daikin, which is provider of the heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and cooling technology. I'm the lucky one who is representing only one segment, which is, of course, part of the buildings. At the same time, I'm active also in the Slovak Association for Cooling and Heating Technology. This is association which brings together approximately 700 members from the area HVAC. I can say with some kind of fun that I'm the coolest guy in the Slovakia, because normally I like very much what I do, and all my life I'm in this segment of cooling and air conditioning, and even my grandfather was doing the refrigeration business. My father is doing the air conditioning business. My brother is doing the air conditioning business. My children, don't worry, I have already paper. They are normal. That's very good news for me. Please, next slide. What are my work experiences or what we are doing? I can divide my experiences or the companies which I represent the experiences mainly in the three fields. Of course, like the technology provider, we are normally, it was the time when we call this hardware, and we are bringing some air conditioning, heating unit, and something on the side. But from today's perspective, I can really say that this is not only about the delivering the boxes and finding a place on the roof or something like this. Now we are trying to find out the solution, mainly for my personal favorite, heat pumps technology, and of course heat recovery technology. And how we see that this what is happening on the today market, this is very nice job, because what I perceive that we have a lot of nature, we have a biodiversity, and in our world, in our cities, we have the building diversity. There are a lot of buildings with the different needs, and they are asking the different solution. And this is very nice to every time to find out something which really fits to the building and really fits to the place where we want to live. Secondly, I'm very lucky that I work with the people that are more clever than me, and we somehow together fit in Bratislava one project which is called European Monitoring Center. It's located in our office here in Bratislava, and we try to analyze how are the building running after the installation, because we see certification and project is very, very important part, but also we have to look on from the perspective how they are running the system into the already existing building. And this monitoring center is showing us how are the energy efficiency, because we see on the building, on the side which we have, still there is a roughly 20% possibility to improve the energy efficiency during operational of the system. This is of course connected together with the predictive service, which is in the last time work, which are a lot of developers hiring, mainly from the reason of the cost service. But this data analysis in these days, this is mainly in the half a year, we are also somehow trying to connect it with the indoor air quality and also with the outdoor air quality, because these two facts are very connected and can bring into the building something different. Yeah, so they can create the building more healthy, and they can be really the barriers for the virus spreading, which we have in most countries situation like it is. Yeah. Third part of my experiences is mainly from the Slovak Association for Cooling and Air Conditioning Technology. This is, we are taking care mainly about the certification and training. Yeah. In every practically heat pump or air conditioning system, there is something which is called the refrigerant, and this refrigerant is somehow very controlled substance, because it's under the F-gas regulation. And running this kind of system with the good service, it's somehow protecting us, like the whole nature or whole world, that this F-gas or refrigerant is not spreading outside into the air. And this is done mainly on the certification and training. And together with also association from the surrounding countries like Czech, Poland, and Hungary, we are also collecting the data, and we see how is the market development, how much that's called renewable energy we are, because of course I'm working mainly in this field, HVAC, we are the heat pump we are able to bring onto the market, and how is the market behavior. Okay, very short, that's all from my side.
Thank you very much for your introductions and your insight on the sustainable commercial buildings. And now let's start with the discussion. I would start with a very general question about the legislations and policies. And we know that the climate change targets require many legislation changes. And is the Slovak construction sector ready for it? Also, the second part of this question is, what would Slovak policies need to align with the Green Deal objectives and renovation wave in general? I would like to ask Peter to respond to this question.
Well, I think the very particular proposal on the table right now is the renovation wave that was presented by the European Commission last week. It's quite fresh. We are still analyzing it. There are some very good ideas that we think could advance renovation also in Slovakia, in terms of simplification of state aid rules, for instance, or the idea to direct part of the EU ETS revenues into renovation support, instead of supporting, steel industry or other heavy industries, and a few others. From the sustainability point of view, the renovation wave will also, the measures that are proposed within renovation wave will definitely address also new build with the planned revision of the construction product regulation that will introduce principles of circular economy into construction materials, qualities, recycled content and recyclability, and also we have high hopes in not so introducing, because that has been introduced quite a long time ago, but in advancing again green public procurement. So if green public procurement was used in procuring renovation or new public buildings, this would again advance the market. And back to your question whether the market is ready for it, I think the public policies is one of the ways how to create demand for quality products, quality services, quality buildings in the end. And I think that's how things work most of the time, that there is demand and then the supply side, the market, adapts to it. So if there is a demand for, as Vladimir was speaking about, cooling and ventilation, if the demand is bigger, then also, Daikin will increase its own capacities to supply the market, and there may be more competitors to Daikin joining the market because the demand is there and they want to supply to it. But creating the demand is quite a lot about public policies. Yeah.
Thank you. Maybe Vladimir, you can add your insight to this topic.
I will add to the Peter, because Peter have very good general overview about this renovation wave and green deals, and I like it also very much that from this kind of activities are coming from the European Union, because normally the small state like the Slovak Republic don't have such a big capacity and big ambitions, and I think we needed these ambitions to have these big plans. I will definitely support all these kind of things, but then we have also from technology provider perspective, we have some green legislation, we have new targets, but like I am the technology provider, and we have the norms, and this I see some kind of bottleneck in the Central Europe. That's we already know what we have to do, in which way we have to go, and we have to use new technologies, and these new technologies are not already in line with our old norms, yeah, because our norms are coming from ISO, then it's coming to European norm, and European norm to the local, and this way it takes amazing lot of time, and then our local bodies then behavior according old norms, and this can for us in HVAC sector, this is sometimes really the big issue, yeah, how to convince the people which are you are doing something good and green, but don't see it, yeah, don't see a lot of problems, yeah.
Thank you, Vladimir. I will come to second questions. What is the level of awareness of sustainable design and construction in Slovakia, also in V4 countries compared to other European Union countries? Is there any progress in the last years? Maybe this is the question for all of you, so I would ask Martin to start.
We certainly can see the progress over 10 years. I think the development was very clear, even from the first presentations. It was very obvious. On the other hand, if we look closer at the specific situations in our countries, especially Visegrad 4 countries where we are active, and compare it, for example, with the UK market, I think we are still quite behind in the awareness. One of the paradoxes which has been mentioned already is, for example, that certifications are being pushed mostly by private owners and private commercial developers rather than the official authorities and the public buildings, which should change. But on the other hand, when we're looking at the common owners, architects, and this segment, I believe that we are still facing the situation where architects approach it as a necessity, which needs to be done to comply with the current legislation, rather than adopting the mindset of sustainable design. Of course, we have exceptions, and this is changing. It's changing quite dramatically because the awareness of the climate change and all the crisis is pushing the public discussion quite substantially, but I think we still have a long way to go.
Thank you. Peter, would you like to add to this question your point of view?
Yes, I can. I think we have data for Slovakia from public polls. I can say that it's about 3/4 to 80% of the population, of adult population, that believes that climate change should be part of the recovery program of the government, or the recovery program should be climate proof, and about the same portion of the population also believes that the recovery plan should include building renovation programs. And we now also have a very fresh example of a petition now delivered to the Slovak parliament. That is basically a petition calling on the parliament to adopt a climate act, and that petition they collected 120,000 signatories over 10 days, maybe 14 days, which also shows you how the society is changing the mindset toward being more climate aware, aware of the environmental issues. So I believe that shift is there, and it also shows in how people choose their housing and what kind of decisions they make. And with that, I also want to address one of the questions from our audience, asking whether the government possibly has the real support to public building renovation and to social housing construction. And I can say, yes, we are seeing that increasingly compared to past. The current government, the current ministers are really indicating and publicly committing to higher support to renovation of public buildings. We are now seeing that also in the draft of the Slovakia's recovery plan, that public building renovation is part of it. When we look at the budget, it's basically 4 times higher than what is currently being spent on public building renovation. So there are indications that the government, the policymakers are taking this seriously. So that again, adds to the entire picture of how the mindset is shifting towards being more environmental cautious.
Thank you, Peter. And Vladimir, what is your point of view?
I also support both statements. We see this on the market behavior, that this sustainability, it's a really big issue. And even if we take the real behavior of the people, developer today, renewable energy are really stronger and stronger. And even if we take also into the consideration, because a lot of time we are meeting with that we are comparing renewable energy with what's called non-renewable energy, and we see that the value for the money is not shifting only to the capex and some investment things, but the value for the money and this factor which are deciding the investors, and it's private or public, are still more and more shifting towards the future and looking for the value for the money which will have our children, not we have. Yeah.
Thank you. What are the main obstacles in Slovakia and Central Europe in achieving a better performance of buildings? I would like to ask first.
Well, this is a complex question. We may look at the legislation. Current legislation is made to make sure that buildings are designed for compliance with the current legislation, but we need the buildings to be built for performance. There is a performance gap between what the legislation requires and what is the real life performance. There are some gaps which we had identified. Some of them come from the user of the building. Some of them come with the lack of the continuous maintenance, commissioning of the systems of the building. And coming back to the legislation, I think in itself, it still regulates the market in a way which does not allow enough flexibility. For example, we don't have a liberal market with green energies. You have only a certain amount of energy you are able to produce for your own use. If you're a private user, it's 10 kilowatts, and you cannot feed it back to the grid. And if you are a legal entity, it's 500 kilowatts, which is a very difficult obstacle and limitation. If we want to purchase, for example, green energy, it's a hurdle. That's one of the issues. And of course, there are many more obstacles. If I may mention, I am one of the initiators of the Manifest 2020, which we are currently putting together, and we put together 5 bullets, 5 points, which we believe could improve the situation in Slovakia. One is the harmonizing and updating the legislation to take into consideration all the new challenges, liberal market, etc. The second is the sociological and economic incentives. We completely miss systematic incentives for building greener. We also lack the digitizing of the system. We could take advantage of master planning and BIM modeling in a way which could significantly improve the whole industry. The fourth one is opening the market with green energies, as I mentioned. And the fifth one is the lack of the net zero carbon construction practices, which is coming. We know that it's being prepared. We just need to be patient for that. But at the moment, this is all lacking.
Thank you, Martin. Peter, could you also add your point of view to this question?
Well, I don't think I have anything extra to add on top of what, for instance, Martin said, so I don't want to take the time.
Thank you. What are the biggest challenges in the near future in the matter of sustainable development? Martin, could you describe it from the point of developer?
From the perspective of the developer, it's kind of funny situation because it would be natural. We are in the business to make money, make profit. So we are always looking at the cost. But if we are looking at the long-term perspective, we want a thriving city, thriving environment to be able to sell the buildings, have more building users, and perform. So this is sustainability from the business side of things. So the biggest challenge is to reconcile the costs with the responsibility, and both need to go hand in hand, and both cannot go forward without substantial assistance from the state, from the European Union, etc.
Thank you. I would like to ask Marek now, how has the mindset of building developers and investors changed within the last year? And what was their motivation to build sustainable buildings and certify before, and has it changed since then?
For the question, well, I don't think it has a objective answer. I would just tell my opinion. In the beginning, certification in general is an optional thing. So there is nothing what forces you as a developer to certify the building. So from the perspective of certification, this changed a lot because the certification now is a standard, is a default thing, which if you don't have, then you're not marketable. And so this changed a lot because in the beginning, it was nothing like that. As I said in my presentation, the history of certification in Slovakia is not very deep. We're talking about some 8-9 years history. And it changed rapidly because now nobody's discussing whether to certify or not. And the mindset changed a lot also in the way that now the developers and HB Reavis is an example, see also potential for other features in a certification, not just to market the building, but also to improve the buildings from different perspectives and different areas. And I will use as maybe a bit weird comparison, but it's like when you try to eat healthy and you feed yourself with healthier food, even it's more expensive, and you're patient enough, you will see the difference after some time. So if you feed the building with better technologies, better materials, and you're patient enough, you see the result in the end, and it doesn't necessarily need to be the result that you are losing money, because when you eat healthier, you're more powerful, you feel better. So I think it's the same with the buildings, that if you're patient enough and if the developer is patient enough, he will see the results of the certification. And that's something what, or not only certification, but thinking about building not as just a building, but a value in the end. And that's what is happening on the market from my perspective currently, that this has changed a lot since the beginning.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Martin also, what is the motivation of HB Reavis to build sustainable buildings?
Well, Marek said it. We need to stay in the market in the first place, and if you have a market which is really seeing sustainability as a priority, that's the first motivation. We also, when we are approaching, for example, banks asking for funds, this is a very important subject which always comes up. It's related also to green bonds. It's related to the young generation, which we want to attract to our buildings, because obviously they are looking at the climate and the sustainability from a very different angle from previous generations. And all of these things combined with the healthy environment and thriving community, that's good enough reason to go for it. I understand that not everybody has the capacity to pay for these certifications, because many of them are really, really expensive, which pertains especially to private residential houses. This is not an objective in itself to be certified, but what's very important is to say that all of these subjects contained in it philosophically and practically should be adopted and should be talked about much more than they are.
Thank you. And maybe I would continue with Marek. And I would like to ask him which areas has the sustainability certification improved in Slovakia and Central Europe?
Mostly, I think the certification opened the topics which were not discussed before. One of the examples is the indoor air quality, which was a big unknown for most of the people. As a normal person, you could describe the parameters of the mobile phone you want to use, no matter which age category you were. But if somebody asks you, what is the indoor air quality parameter of your working space, nobody could find the answer. Now I think it has changed. So the tenants or the people, the users of the buildings are more skilled, and they know more about the indoor environment before. So this is definitely the area which has improved a lot. And also people request more things from the building than before. I'm talking about alternative modes of transport, or they're asking about the materials used in the interior, what kind of paints you use, what kind of furniture you used, what kind of lighting you have. Now we have a new topic about the circadian lighting. So if we're talking about the improvement, definitely it improved the discussion and the dialogue about buildings and in the areas which are not or were not discussed before. And this, I personally believe, the certification was the reason for this. So that's how I would answer.
Thank you. And I would continue also with the question, is it easier to certify the building in Slovakia compared to Central European countries and other EU countries, and why? Marek, could you please continue with your response?
Yeah, that's what many people think, that it's much easier to certify the building here than somewhere else. And it's not true, because as I said in the presentation, it's the international metric standard. It's not something what is necessarily depending on the country where the building is, except one major thing, and that's the energy efficiency, which currently in Slovakia, the legislation is the most frightened within the EU, and this is an issue also for the certification, because you need to beat the local standard, and you need to be better than the local standard in order to gain some points for the energy. And that's something what makes it more difficult to certify the building in Slovakia comparing to other countries. So there's the answer for the question. Currently, for BREEAM, if you're talking about BREEAM certification, it might be more difficult, or the diplomatic answer is not easier than in the other countries.
Okay.
Just one note on that line. Basically, we were comparing some time ago the same building, how it would be certifiable in Czech Republic and in Slovakia. In Czech Republic, we would achieve outstanding, whereas in Slovakia would achieve just excellent. So this is one of the practical proofs.
Thank you, Martin. And then now I will start with a question about renewable energies. So I would like to pose the questions to Vladimir. And how can renewable energy technologies help decarbonization of heat, and how could this trend transform the market of Central Europe in the future?
Decarbonization of the energy, or in my case, I can speak mainly about the decarbonization of the heat. Huge issue, and huge issue on level of European Union, and definitely using the renewable energies. This is the one way how we can decarbonize the heat. And how big is the space to decarbonize the heat? I will tell you on one example. If you look on the market of the heat pumps, for example, in the Slovakia, and comparing to the market, for example, in Norway, because for the heat pump, which is typically Nordic countries are like the premium countries, and if we recalculate the number of the heat pump in the Norway compared to the households and in Slovakia, and when we say, okay, can be the Slovakia same like the Norway, that we have today market of the in heat pump in Slovakia approximately 5,000 pieces, and if we are the same like in the Norway, we come to the number 45,000. It's a huge difference, yeah? And we see that every country have a different approach. Of course, not only heat pump is not the only solution for the decarbonizing of the heat, but this is also depending on the electrical energy and the let's call it quality of the energy, clean of this electrical energy. And for Slovakia, it is relatively fine, yeah, compared to the other countries. That we can say that's decarbonizing with renewable energies, it's possible. Yeah.
Thank you. Peter, would you like to act from the perspective of policies, how to use renewable energies for decarbonization?
Well, yes. So first of all, everywhere in the European Union, we have the rule that the first thing is energy efficiency, and then we deploy renewable energy sources, and that's also the case in Slovakia. There is already from the 1st of January of next year, as I said in my presentation, each new building needs to be nearly zero energy, which means that it needs to be very well insulated to protect from energy losses. And then the very small energy need should be supplied as much as possible from renewable sources. So that's what is happening. Green Building Council had a webinar on this very topic on renewable resources used in buildings 2 days ago, and we elaborated on the topic quite heavily. I know that there are changes to legislation being prepared by the Ministry of Economy that should make it easier to install renewables on building or next to it to supply the building with energy. And I hope this will also make the situation much better for heat pumps, as mentioned by Vladimir.
Thank you. I would continue with Vladimir. And the question is, has the indoor air quality the direct impact on the possibility to decrease the virus risk in the buildings? And how is it possible to decrease the risk of infection in the building which does not have forced ventilation? Are there particular solutions?
This is very, very complex issue, and we can have only a whole webinar on this issue and what we can do this. But I will link this also what Marek say in previous comment. That's today's situation, it's changed completely. If 2 years ago we are talking to somebody, be like from the HVAC industry, from facility management or for building owner, let's talk about the HEPA filters, let's talk about the particle parameters. Nobody take care. Yeah. Today, practically all population in Slovakia know how is the airborne breathing in the air, what is the indoor air quality, which kind of particles are good and which kind of particles are not good. And of course, my philosophy generally come to the point that if it's building good design, and this is the perspective which we have taken care in consideration for the next project and incoming project, when we want to be in the building have some kind of pandemic operation, we can do it, and we can do it very efficiently, and then building will become a barrier for these viruses, and we can safely work. Yeah? And this, I think, it's very, very important. Also on the buildings, like public buildings, like the schools, kindergarten, where we need to place the children for people which are in the first stage, yeah, in hospitals and these kind of things. And ventilation system, if are correctly designed and use correctly technology from the HEPA filter, 100 fresh air incoming, that's there is no contamination from the air which is coming outside from the air. Yes, this is very basic rules which we can use. For the buildings which don't have the ventilation system, this is a much bigger issue, because we have only two possibilities practically: open the windows, but this you have, of course, in these days, like a coming, it's we are killing the energy efficiency of the whole system, and it's impossible to sitting near to the open windows. And then we have something what we call local protection, and this local protection can be some air cleaners or germicide lamp or this kind of things, But of course, in these cases, we are talking that we are lowering the risk. Yeah, we cannot protect. Yeah, there is no technology on the world which we can say that you can. This can protect us. I think. Yeah, maybe it's, I don't know. Yeah, but in Slovakia, no.
Thank you. Marek, could you also please add your comment to this topic?
Well, I think it's the viruses have been here before. All the issues we're talking about have been here before. The reason why we talk about them now is the pandemic situation. It's a nature of human being that we don't find a solution till we are not forced to for anything. So pretending the virus is here now and it wasn't before, well, the flu is a virus and it was before. So it's definitely, I don't want to say the pandemic situation is good, not at all, but it opened the topics which have been here before and are important, no matter if there is any coronavirus here or not. And it will definitely have the big influence on the indoor air quality also afterwards, because nobody will change the system which was designed to eliminate the viruses. And there are many things which are working abroad. In Slovakia, we have currently one project which has UV lamps in the air conditioning system, which is a pilot project in Slovakia. I don't have information that there will be any other office building having UV lamps in their air conditioning system. And of course, yeah, I would just repeat what was already mentioned, and that's the awareness of people, which is now completely on a different level because people talk about it, because it's an issue. The fact that it was issue also before, well, okay, but it wasn't pandemic. Yeah, now it's pandemic, so people talk about it more. And does it have any impact to decrease the virus, to apply these technologies or these features? Of course it does. Mostly people learn how to wash their hands, how to ventilate, open the windows, which they don't do normally. So it's good that we come back to a simple solutions also for not modern buildings. So yeah.
Thank you. And Martin, could you also add your comment to this situation with the healthy environment and pandemic?
Maybe I would take it from the angle of the WELL certification. We have been certifying our buildings in WELL for 2 years already. And what changed is our optics at the benefits of WELL. Whereas at the beginning, we were focusing on the performance and efficiency of the building users. When we were supplying, for example, 50 cubic meters per person per hour, it was mostly to decrease the CO2 levels below 800 ppm, let's say. We were using the UV lamps in Twin City Tower and elsewhere with filtration and pre-filtration and other approaches, which WELL recommends. Nowadays, it is much more about preventing spread of the virus. We heard that it has been mentioned that operable windows. Unfortunately, Bratislava is among the cities with very poor quality of the outdoor air. So what we have also is the meteorological stations which evaluate the outdoor air, which gives a signal to the indoor user whether it's advisable to open or not. So basically the angle is changing. And the other comment I would have is the certification systems, they adapt as well to the new situation. WELL has recently released a new add-on to WELL certification, which is called Health and Safety. It is a 21-point system which comes free of charge if you submit it along with documentation for WELL. And it focuses on the operation and facility management of the building. So there are some set rules for the operation and also some procedural cleaning themes and also some safety regulations, etc. So This all has come into our market. We need to deal with it. As Marek said, this pandemic has been here before. Maybe we don't remember, but we need to adapt to it.
If I may add a comment or two on this topic, I think the COVID will definitely have the impact on how we operate the buildings and what kind of ventilation we have. And I think this is maybe not only about office or commercial buildings, but perhaps this will also trigger, higher interest in forced ventilation or mechanical ventilation in residential buildings, which is currently very uncommon here in Slovakia. That's my first comment. The second comment is really that I watch with interest, and I think I will have to wait and see how this develops. What the COVID pandemic, what it means for the real estate market, how companies that are now experiences in large scale for the first time, how it is to run a company with a lot of home officing, if they will want to stay with home officing in the future, and if this will reduce demand for office space, or it will change demand for office space, reducing the demand for open space in favor of smaller offices, for instance. But also it may, impact demand in residential market, because people will maybe, some of the population definitely will think about when purchasing the housing, will think about the home office. This is probably a thought that was not taken into account so frequently before the pandemic. But in the future, I think many people will take this into account when they will be seeking for a new apartment or new family house. And again, this will change the kind of requirement from the market, and this will change the way the way we build buildings. But that's to be seen. That's to be seen, really.
Well, we see it already. Just a comment on that. Basically, there is a push to decrease the population per floor. So that's one of the first results. And it's not only about this chessboard arrangement of the workstations. It's about, for example, making sure that you don't get in touch with other people. There's cleaning procedures on all the high-touch surfaces. And of course, like the home office is becoming a buzzword of the day, really. So the ability to be on conference like this one seamlessly, it changes our attitudes, how we work.
Thank you. We are running a little bit out of time. We have last 5 minutes, so I will come back to the question from our audience. And I will start with the question for maybe Marek or Martin. Is there any support or donation from government for a green rooftop? If yes, why don't we have more of them? If no, why? I heard that city Brno is more in advance with this problem than Bratislava, and it's not even capital city. So I ask you both because of your experience with the green roofs.
Maybe if I may very shortly, no, the answer is no. But there is a talk about green roofs. It's one of the topics that, for example, the new municipality, new government here in Bratislava is talking about a lot. Green roofs, of course, they have so many benefits. It's difficult to even number them, starting from reducing the heat island effects to improving the air quality. We have done, for example, a microclimate study in the whole Nivi zone, which was part of our BREEAM communities. And we were tracking the impact of the greenery on the lowering of the temperature and PMs of dust particles and other toxins. And it proves that it's significant. And if I look at it, basically all of the greenery we have in this zone is green roofs, because all of the underground is taken by technology is parking and other things. So we don't even realize that we are on a roof when we are on the ground floor. But this is definitely one of the big topics, and I really hope that there will be incentives from the government and for even regular residential houses to build green roofs much more.
Thank you. We are running now out of time. I'm sorry, there is no space for the other question or your comments, Marek. So thank you all for your insightful discussion. We were discussing the current barriers and opportunities. And to wrap up all our discussion, what is needed? We need to harmonize the legislation, as was already said several times. Also, Peter underlined that public demand shapes the public policies, and this is very important to continue in this. And legislation is also supplemented by European Commission norms and legislations which help us for to support green recovery. And yeah, also these social and economical incentives are very important to continue in sustainable development in Slovakia and also in other countries, I would say. If you would like to add something more from your perspective, please. So thank you all. Thank you to audience for their questions and the attentions. I would like to also thanks to European Real Estate Society and the organizers for having us here. And I would like ask Andrej probably to say the last word.
Thanks, Hanka. Dear Hanka, dear panelists, thank you so much for creating the panel with this topic and for bringing your expertise and experience and engaging in such fruitful, constructive and open exchanges throughout this afternoon session. Dear participants, thank you for joining and spending your time at the ERES Industry Seminar in Bratislava. We really appreciate it. We would like to inform you, we will share with you next week the recordings and presentation of the ERES Industry Seminar. And we believe that our diverse and dynamic group of speakers and panelists provided in-depth insight as well as actionable and practical information from Slovakia. We wish you all the best and hope that you continue to be interested in upcoming events of the European Real Estate Society or the Institute of Management of the Slovak University of Technology in Bratislava, Colliers and Slovak Green Building Council. You can find on our websites the next opportunities for remote real estate events. And in the end, I would like to thank European Real Estate Society members, especially board members, for their support and great work in their countries and across Europe. Thank you so much again for your time and so on. Goodbye and have a nice day.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye.